Hello all, and welcome to today's Sunday Q&A, which today is brought to you from the garden, because it's just too nice a day to be stuck indoors, you know. So done me bits and pieces this morning, done me lorries and cards and PODs, Jim, hey Jim, rubbish. And yeah, it's just too nice a day. So I'm bearing in mind the fact the weather might be breaking, and I'm sure a lot of you will be going, oh, I'll be better running this heat. It's been hard work, and it has been hard work. And I know one person, particularly my wife indoors, will be craving some rain. I plan on making the most of the last of the days. So yeah, Barbie this evening. But without further ado, Q&A. So firstly, London Creative says, you've written Pointless Point. Thanks, Nick. As always, correcting my English for me. He's out there. He's got his own channel, London Creative. Please check it out. He does kind of bits and pieces around London, kind of mad walks and stuff like that, you know. So, but yeah, cheers. I did. At first, I went, "What's he talking about?" And then realised, yeah, I spelled it wrong. So, right. Carrying on from last week, this is kind of the topic of the moment: how much to bid in 2022. Again, I give my fourpenny thing, and you guys have been kind enough to actually come in with facts and figures about what you guys are doing, which gives us much better grip on the scene, like, you know. So, my random hobbies says I like this. He says we have tried quoting at 2 different price points on Luton vans. We discovered that for many it was like shopping at Aldi, sorry, or Waitrose. People seem to be wary of low bids. When we started putting in higher bids, oddly we got more jobs. I've even been asked why we had put in such a low bid backload on my way back. I think some low bids are some people see, you know what I'm saying, some people look at it, and if you bid too low, they go, well, that can't be right, can it? I mean, I've had it before where someone's run me up and they've gone, I've got to ask you, why is your bid so low? And I've said, because I'm in Brighton and the job is going to Dunstable or Luton, and I live in Dunstable. And the guy went, fair enough, it's yours. You know, kind of, if you're a shipper and you've got any sense, what you'll do is you'll actually ring up and go, okay, the bid's low. Why is it low? And if the guy sounds like he's switched on, and there's a good reason. I had my haircut this week. I had a haircut in a bus. Has anybody ever been to South Mims? There's a hairdressers at South Mims in a bus on the services. Dead handy, because you can go on break for half an hour, go and get your haircut, and come back, get your job done. So yeah. Fair enough. E of the Ship, C11 Yan says, he said, maybe don't look at mileage rate, look at your operating costs and your time. And time is everything, because there's only so many hours in the day, you know. Short or long distance, it all converges to £25 to £30 per hour. It doesn't specify the van size, but I know it's saying if you can actually calculate how long you think you're going to be on the job, I presume that's got to be a small van. That can't, well, I'm thinking about that. It's got to be a small van, isn't it? So you think, well, I'm going to be on the job for this many hours, so I'm going to times that by what I charge on an hourly rate. And the hourly rate, you do you. By 72 says, if you've got good feedback, you will probably get higher rates. Shippers have said to me, you aren't the lowest bid, but you've got great feedback. I've had that too. I've had Josh phone me this week. And I said, he said, how much you do it for? And I turned around and I told him, I can't remember how much it was, to be honest with you. And he said, I've actually got 3 bids on my system cheaper, but I'm going to give it you anyway, because I know you'll do a decent job. And that stands for something as well. Having a working relationship with the shipper, which is something you only build up through time, like, you know. And when they know that if they put it to you, they're not going to get any aggravation. They're not going to get, he's not here, where is he? It hasn't turned up, it's broken. Ringing up, asking for crazy, like, additional charges. They'll just put it across and they can put it to bed. There's a lot to be said for that. Hunting Treasure says, it seems like you've got a lot of tension there over there, Pete, but overworked and underpaid people in them comments, and he likes the videos. Again, everybody does it their own way, and there is that frustration that, yeah, I'm trying to bid higher, but every time I bid higher I don't win any jobs, and then I bid lower and I'm thinking, well, is it worth doing it? But I haven't got the answers, guys. I'm never here with the answers. All I'm doing is telling you how I find it and passing on how you guys find it too, hoping that helps, you know. Got a long one now, but it's worth doing, I think. It's Yasin Carrigal says, I disagree that the CX is a backload place. Almost all the jobs on the CX are hotshots, and almost all drivers operating the CX are there full time, and their first and last jobs are through the CX. Perhaps the shippers wish that they were at a backload place so they can get their job covered for maximum profit, but this is not the case at the moment, so there is no need for the CX to mention it as a backload site. The CX is an alternative place for shippers to find drivers to get their own jobs covered for a price sometimes higher than they would want to pay for their own drivers. As an owner driver, you must first consider the time on the job rather than the mileage, which is exactly what Ian says. And the mileage as this is how you calculate an accurate quote for the job. Your current location to collection point plus from collection to delivery point equals fuel costs for the task. On top of the fuel costs, add on an average of £30 an hour for medium and short distance jobs. I hope you're writing this down. You can translate this through because it does make an awful lot of sense. This is on small van price, obviously. If you're an average of £30 an hour from... Hang on, so we've done that one. I tell you what, there's a comment on there. It's worth reading and drilling into. It's Yasin Karagal, and he speaks an awful lot of sense. So, but due to my poor reading skills, I didn't get the end of it. He said, and finally, he says, don't let them fool you with your mileage-based calculations, otherwise you'll be demoralised, demotivated, and finally give up. It is just a matter of finding a way forward. And what he's saying, along with what Ian is saying, try and calculate it by time rather than miles. And that way, at the end of the day, say for example, there's like you're going to work for 8 hours in a day and you want £30 an hour, you're going to end up with £240, which is not a bad day's wages. As long as you don't get killed on the diesel, you should be okay. Steve at SDC Services says, can't believe folk go on per mile prices. I look at every job on its own merit. Load, pickup, distance, chance for backload, driving to the sticks will all determine my price. My minimum is £50 running an extra long wheelbase. Thanks for sharing there, Steve. Commuter Branch Line says, I like this. He says, an old boy I used to work with had a saying about folk who quoted too low prices to get jobs. He called it buying your work. And his favourite quote was always, don't buy your work. Quote what you need for the job. That said, there are a lot of factors in play in the transport game that don't come into not just supply and demand. There's always the guy who quotes low money for a job to get them home. This is what I've always said. This is why you can't have a minimum price on a job, because there's always going to be one guy who cannot believe his luck because he's in Norwich, it's picking up across the road, and the delivery is to the distribution centre, which is 2 minutes around from his house, and he's going to give you the crazy price. Just right place, right time, and you can't ever odds against that, you know. So there aren't rates, but the rates on CX are lowball anyway. I only see you chuckled at the Scooby-Doo reference. Folk of a certain age. All right, Pete. I'm actually not Pete. I'm actually Old Man Withers from the Sawmill, and I would have got away with it if it wasn't for your pesky kids. Did that last week. Just thought I'd just revisit that. Just like doing the Old Man Withers thing. Andy P says, he said, buddy, I think you're spot on. He says, sharing of information is always the best way. Like I said, I'm not trying. Suddenly it's like, you know, sort of secret scribble on how much we're quoting. But everybody knows they've got a price that they're happy to pay and what they want to get off. Why don't we just put the prices out there and go, this is kind of this is going rate. There will still be the guy who's going to go much less than going rate because he's frightened. If he quotes going rate, he might lose the job, and he's on top of it, and it's taking him home. So I don't get it, but you know, it's what it is, isn't it? He said, I think it's fair to say that many people are negative about the CX and pricing. It's something personal to you. Again, you do you. I'm never telling anybody what to do. I just put it out there, you know. There's no right or wrong. As long as you make a living, then that's all that matters. We all get frustrated about not winning work, but it's a blind bid platform. He said, your bidding on pricing, he said, might help, you know. Surely that's what it's all about. I said, P.S. Big Beardy, over a coffee and chat about it. Like Beardy's got my number. Ring us. Otherwise, I've spoke to Van. I've also put a thing on Van on the Run. It might just be me, Van on the Run. It might not. I don't know. I've kind of got bits on, but it might happen. You never know, like, you know. A. Barton says, he said, I started on the 9 years ago with a long wheelbase. I got 90 to £1 a mile then. It's not gone up much since then. And my mate Franz has actually commented. He's out there. He's actually one of the guys who's in with Ian, and he's kind of doing very little work on the CX because he, as a result of being on the CX, he's got a direct line to a shipper. He's moving bands around now. He's driving the bootleg Beetles around the country, and then hopefully, because he's had to get an operator's license into Europe, he's having a wonderful time. I think he did Ariana Grande the other day. Was that right? Ariana Grande? Can't remember her name. But yeah, he's just drive there, drop off the PA, wait for 5 hours, pick up the PA, and drive at the next one. But he's having a fine time. Fran says, same as 2004. And he's probably right. So that was pricing. That was last week's. This week's, I did one. It's called the Burt Price School of Gardening, and it's something we've always had in the house because my wife's granddad was a guy called Burt Price, and he said you do these things with like soil levels, and you do a pH test, and is it acid alkaline? He said, don't do that. He said, buy a plant, dig a hole, put some compost in, put it in, and water it. It will live or it will die. And what I was trying to say is, because obviously as soon as you write in the title, should you join the CX, you know the video's going to go mental eventually. But what I was trying to say is what I didn't say last time. The best way to get involved in something is just to get involved in something. Keep your costs as minimum as you possibly can. Hopefully you might have a van already, or if not, get a cheap van, and then sort of get the most basic package. And then the worst thing that can happen is you've done the money on the package. You can always sell the van, you can get your insurance back, and you wipe your mouth and walk away and go, it wasn't for me. So Ben Ridges said, Pete, he said, I've watched loads of your videos and he's pleased with the advice. He said, I've just started up on this adventure and I've had experience with this work before. Although people are warning me off due to the high fuel prices and quoting cheap and all that, in my own experience, any big adventure, there is never a good time. So it's just basically hold your nose and jump. He said, my question is, I'm lucky enough to have another business and I managed to land a local job running every day. The timing is finishing between 1 and 3 p.m. Is it worth going to go on to do some jobs from here? Basically, is it worth joining CX? He said, also, what's the deal with you at work? I'm based in Southampton and have vans. I can use the Exeter area. He said, sorry to be naive. Don't be naive. Don't be sorry. We all started somewhere. I started somewhere. Exeter's not great. Don't get a lot of jobs out of Exeter. Southampton is slightly better. As for joining the CX, if you've got a regular job that finishes between 1 and 3, I would say, where does it finish? Now, if you're based in Southampton and it's just kind of local drops around town and it finishes in Southampton at between 1 and 3, 1, yes, 3, I wouldn't bother. If you've got a job that's taking you, like you pick up in Southampton, finishes between 1 and 3, and you finish, I don't know, Northampton, Birmingham, Leeds, Bristol, then I'd say definitely jump on the CX, because that's what it's designed for. You get your local job to take you out, which pays you the decent money, and then you've got a chance of getting your backload rates, or it pays your diesel for the day on the way home, which means your first job's all bunts. But a bit more information on that one, Ben, if you like. But I would say, if your first job is just local, if all you're doing is running local and you're getting good money for it, I'd stick with that. Just don't even get involved. If you're going distances and you know you're bringing your van or other vans back a few miles every night, then it's worth having. That's kind of what it's for. Ian Merrick says, the huge outlay of the CX has never appealed to me, plus complaints from CX drivers on Facebook about people going bust. Some people go bust, not that many. We tend to get paid. 3/4 of the drivers at the main depot are on the CX. One I chat to a daily tells me the subscription is now 1,400 quid. It probably is. I don't know why shippers and drivers don't migrate to same-day courier network during this cost of living crisis. The driver subscription is £21 a month, cancel any time. I've just come off the network after 2 months due to lack of work, and yet the infrastructure is all there. It's complete with CX. I think you kind of answered your own question there. The CX is too expensive. I'm not involved with the CX. I do these videos because they came about. In fairness, if you ever go, I've got a video that I've got a link to my website. They're not even on the front of my website anymore because they don't pay me a penny. And I think, well, if you ain't going to pay me, what's the point? Having said that, there is a reason why the CX charges that much more money, and the short answer is because it can. I'm going to do a video on it just because I do videos. That's what I do, and it'll make a change from constantly talking about how to strap down a box. But it's frustrating. I find it frustrating, but they do it because they can do it, and we'll do a video. Similarly, there's other stuff out there like the delivery app. Again, hardly any work on it, but the infrastructure is there. So basically saying there are apps out there with a fantastic infrastructure, but they're not showing any jobs. I'd rather have it the other way around. The app might be rubbish, but there's loads of jobs on it and I'll be happy. He said, why is there no mass migration away from the CX? How can it make business sense as we enter a 15-month recession? I think bottom line is, Ian, is they get away with it because they get away with it. But I'm going to try and drill down to it in the video. We might even go into a bit of economics. I won't bore you. I'll try not more than normal anyway. Jason Burke says the only people making money on the CX is CX. In 2020, their turnover was 2.2 million. In 2021, it increased to 6.5 million. For 2022, this will decrease substantially. However, they've got a load of £605,000 in reserve for a rainy day. That's possibly true. Probably true. I guess you can get this information from Companies House. Again, it's not something I get involved with. I've always been of the solution. I don't care how much someone else makes money. If someone buys a job for £1 and they sell it to me and they sell it to me for £1 million and they make like £1 million less a quid, I don't care as long as I'm getting paid for the job. I've got a job for you, Peter. It's worth 500 quid. Do you want it? Yeah. I don't care how much they're making. Makes no difference to me whether they're making a loss, making a pound, making enough money to sort of finance a small revolution. All I really worry about is my bottom line, because their bottom line is their problem. So, but yeah, you could be, again, they're making dough. They're not making as much money as Shell and BP, and they seem to be getting away with it, don't they? While we still put diesel in our trucks at £2 a litre. B. Carroll says, he said, don't agree with you, Pete. He says, you invite fools to join the conveyor belt. Don't get me wrong. It's a wonderful platform, but a horrible place to start and should never be the only source of revenue. A better suggestion would be to join Argos, Tesco's, etc. Gain multi-drop experience like they're driving van year after year, and then consider doing it independently. Otherwise, you'll end up a Luton driver quoting 90p per mile. B. Carroll, I've got to be honest, I never, like I say, I don't tell anybody to join it. I know the conveyor belt of fools exists, but that's independent of me, because if they listen to me, they wouldn't quote the stupid low prices in the first place. As for joining, I think if I'd have actually had to start, because I just got thrown in at the deep end via Tony, come and work for me, and then a month later, you're not working for me anymore. I think if I'd have started on the Argos, I probably wouldn't have lasted very long. Not the Argos. The Argos is okay. If I'd have been started on the Amazon, I'd have been going, this is killing me. I've got to do so many drops, so I'm going back to the markets. I was lucky in the fact that I was making the same money for 3 drops as they're making for 200. So I don't know if I would have stuck it, but an argument can be made. Go try it with somebody else, see if you like it, and then go on your own. You do you. Shane Hardy says, my takeaway from all this, Pete, is worst case scenario, you don't get enough money to be cost effective running on the CX and you lose your subscription fee. Best case, you make money in contacts and then you make even more money. That's exactly it. Worst case, I say do it as cheaply as you possibly can. Don't go and sign up a lease on a brand new Ford, what they call custom, because it's lovely, but it's 32 grand, it's £700 a month, and then I'm going to sign up for the CX package, or just get a cheap van, join a CX. If it works, upgrade slowly. You know, all the gear and no idea doesn't work. Just upgrade slowly, and if it works, you get there. And finally, Amanda, sorry, how can I not read that? Amanda Jardine says, she said that another video that makes sense, just about to join the CX, and the videos have helped me. Scary times for me, but I know I can make it work. You get out what you put in, one life, live it. Amanda, good luck, my love. And you know where we are if you've got any questions. Obviously not me, because I'm some clueless idiot, but the wise guys will help you out. And on the subject of the wise guys, just bus haircut, 10 quid. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you work it out, like, you know, per follicle, it's probably quite expensive because there's hardly any hair there. But Zol Falor says, how is Doncaster as a base? Now, some guys, again, have filled it in. I think Godzilla's has filled it in. Doncaster's okay. It's not too bad. You're not completely out in the sticks. Try to be wary. Godzilla says Doncaster also covers Grimsby, and you can get in Grimsby, you can get stuck. Presumably, if you like, you know, like places like Hull and Gaul, lovely, but on the coast. And when you're on the coast, half of you sea. So be wary of these things, but it's not too bad. Check the jobs on the map. When it comes in, ping it, and a little map will ping up, and you'll see whereabouts in Doncaster it is. So is it more inland? Is it Leeds? Is it Sheffield? I've probably got Doncaster completely wrong. It's probably near Exeter. Or is it on the coast? Be wary of, you know, thinking, okay, that bit's not too bad, but that bit's a bit scary. But, you know, it's not too bad. You could do a lot worse. Barry Smith has done a thing. He says it's to do with weights and how much each van can weigh how much each van can carry according to West. So through the marvels of modern technology, you'll see a pop-up now. It's about there. Is that right? So if you want to pause it, about that, and it says Barry Smith, and then it's got like a rough idea of weights, what each van can carry. That'll give you a rough idea. Barry, thanks for sharing as always. Andy Darwin says, do they do car transporting on the CX, or is it just parcels or pallets? Happens rarely. You'll get there. I think I did do a video about this, and I'll try and dig it out. I can't remember what I called it, and it'll be there if I can find it. If it's not, I've just pointed at the air. But it's sort of, if you've got a high-ab, if you've got a fridge, if you're specialist fans, I think it is. If you've got a high-ab, if you've got a fridge, if you get the job, you'll get good money for it. Oh, well, actually, I did a guy. Actually, it was quite interesting. I had to do a drop-off at Tesco's this week. They needed 2 men on site to unload, so they arranged a bloke to be there. And he's a motorcycle courier on the CX. And I said, "Do you get much motorcycle work?" He said, "Actually, I don't do too bad." And I thought, "Really? I never see any motorcycle jobs ping up." But he said during the pandemic, a lot. Because it was laptops and PCM test, COVID test, isn't it? He said now it's calmed down a bit, but he got 45 quid. He turned up down the road from him. I think we unloaded about 3 bars. And I said, I don't know why they've called you, because this is on pallets and I've got a pump truck and tail lift. Took it all off with a pump truck and said, cheers, mate, there you go. So, but no car transporting, not really. I wouldn't. If you're a car transporter, I wouldn't join the CX. I don't. If that's all you do, I wouldn't. It's not worth it. Del Anthony says, can you make money from the CX with no vans, just selling work on the CX? Absolutely. People on the CX seem to fit into 3 different categories. Courier drivers, people who just drive the vans, which is how I started. Shippers, people who've just got a laptop, who are just, they ring them up, then people will ring them and go, I need a van. They sell the job on the CX, and then they make their money that way. And courier companies, which is what we are, where we've got lorries and we've also got our own customers, so we actually have to get vans in for our own customers. So we put our lorries out to other people, and at the same time people give us jobs and we have to get vans in for them. So it's 3 different ways. But if you want to just be a shipper, you can join a CX just as a shipper, but what you need is a lot of your own customers. So you do that by going around, getting your own customer in, leafleting, talking to people. But if you've got people ringing you up all the time going, I need a van, that's how you do it. Good luck. Paul Brennan says, yes, Paul Brennan became a millionaire on the CX. Started with 2 million, lost 1. True story. It's not a true story, Paul, is it? It made me smile. Right, we're on to the miscellaneous now. So, Off-Grid T-Bone says, I have a camper van, if that counts. Never seen a pallet in its life, though, Pete. It would be interesting to know the amount of people that are watching that aren't couriers, and maybe stick one out for the polls. I think a lot of people do watch that aren't couriers, which I'm just grateful. Anybody watches, thanks very much. It's appreciated. As for the camper van, when they sell jobs on the CX, if you say you're a van, they want a van. They don't want a car. They don't want an ice cream van. They don't want a bike with a trailer. They kind of want a van. And if you turn up with something like that, you're just going to buy yourself a world of pain. Particularly if it's RDCs or distribution centres. You're going to go, what's that? No, it's not coming in. So you're just going to buy yourself grief, unfortunately. But thanks for watching anyway. Andrew Forsyth said, you're not exactly short of £1. I presume this is because I record the videos in my front room. All I can say to you, Andrew, is a cover is not a book. I did a video on the barn. It may look grand. It is grand. Don't get me wrong, I'm incredibly lucky. It's my family home. I've lived here for 20 odd years. I'm very, 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 very lucky to have it, and I love it. But the whole idea that I'm loaded is absolutely not true. Honestly, if you're not living on the edge, you take up too much room. And I have been flying by the seat of my pants for a very, very long time now. Things seems to be improving on a regular basis, and long might continue. But yeah, mate, I'm not trying to be flash. I'm just hoping that one day someone who watches the videos, who wants to shoot the new series of The Holiday with Cameron Diaz and Jude Law, says, can we pay to use your house? It's just free advertising, isn't it? So, Wayne Rawlins says, I didn't think that you could film in the prison because your phone's normally taking off you and put in a locker, and that get returns after departure. This is true, Wayne. Steve, the thing is, and Steve Campbell says, he said, I've got a lot of ex-cons who already know how they work, so do a sneaky video. I have sunglasses with a cam built in so you can secretly record. I'm just not going to. Not from the point, I just don't want to do anything wrong. I don't want to upset anybody, and I'm going to upset a shipper one day. I'm just going to go, you've just filmed my job in a prison. You're in trouble. Yes, they do take the phone off me, but I have 2 cameras mounted. I've got one on the dashboard, and I've got one with a gimbal, good word, which is mounted there, which means I can actually do videos, because you don't touch your phone when you're driving, it's not on. But what you can do is you can go beep, beep, and then I can actually, so when I do these life on the road videos, it's set up for that. So theoretically, even though they've taken the phone off me, I've still got 2 cameras on the go, and I could leave them running. I'm just not going to. I've done a video about prisons, it's coming out soon, and it's just a generic what to do. I hope I'm not trying to get anyone into trouble. I'm just trying to stop anyone who might be frightened about going into prisons. They're very, very straightforward. We got along and again, right, and I like this as well. I have to go through and pen some of these off. Clive Littlewood, he says, right, Pete, he says, it's about time you stop referring to small van drivers as Uncle Alberts. They're Billy Whizzers. As you know, they account for over 30% on the CX. I found that out last week. And they account for 95% of my company work. Small van drivers are the lifeblood of the courier work, and it's a real money spinner if you do it well. Most small vans can achieve 60 to 70 miles per gallon if driven well. They can run locals all day at £25 for less than 10 miles if they want to stay in a local area with very little expense. They don't have to wait for ages to get unloaded. This is certainly true. I've done small van jobs in Luton before, and it's brilliant. You walk in and you go, it's the boxes over there, mate. It's like, just walk in, walk out. It's great. You can get to the next job quickly. Clients will just call a cab instead of a courier if you started charging £50 for a local job. Couriers are needed every day by parts suppliers, hospitals, plumbers, electricians, manufacturers, and numerous businesses, and they probably post 10 plus jobs every day going all over the country. And he goes on, and I'll tell you what, Clive, you're dead right, mate. But I've got to be honest with you, small vans, when I talk about the Uncle Alberts, I'm not really talking about small van drivers. I'm talking there. I did a video once about HGV drivers that go and drive a small van, and it's the point where you get to the end, you've done it forever, or you get to retirement, you've worked in a factory forever, or you've worked in advertising or a bank, and you go, I'm not ready to stop, but I just want something. They're the Uncle Alberts. The guys that just want to get out from under their wife's feet, maybe leave at 10, get back at 3, do a couple of jobs. They're not looking to be a millionaire. They're just going to get themselves a bit of money. They're the Uncle Alberts. But you're dead right. We had a guy working for us. I've done this story before. And the way the jobs fell one day, he ended up getting 400 and nearly 500 quid for a day in the morning for flying up to Newcastle and back. And I went to him, I can't remember his name now, and I went, Christ, you're earning more money than me. And he was driving around a little van. But I'm going to give you a dedicated video, Clive. And thanks for watching and thanks for commenting. But I think that's worth the Billy Whizzers. We're going to refer to you, the new guys, the small van drivers, as the Billy Whizzers, unless you're an Uncle Albert. Craig Harrison says, oh, there's something else I want to do. He says, I use Waze and Google Maps because I did one which is better, and I said that Google Maps was better, and then instantly reverted back to Waze. He says, sometimes I suspect traffic issues. I put Waze on, but a lot of the time I just want to punch Waze in the face because it routes me off some crazy routes which I'm convinced takes longer than putting up with the traffic. I'm currently running Waze and Road Lords because I have to, because of the height on my truck, and that works very well for me. So I want to do a video on that because I can run 2 apps side by side with my fancy foldy phone, which is great, by the way. I fully recommend these phones, they're brilliant. But yeah, we'll get onto that one. But again, thanks for watching, thanks for commenting. And in conclusion this week, Shane Hardy says, because I did one on the pointless points, because I'm now a Road Lords champion. Does that mean anything? Nothing whatsoever. And he says, pointless points equals priceless prizes, don't they? Absolutely. You got 2 apps, nothing for a pair, not in this game. And White Van, this did make me smile. He said, White Van Man says, Stockport, Stoke, because I just got the wrong place. I'm a world's worst courier driver, I'm rubbish. He said, I recently bid on a job to Ilkeston. I thought, that's near Derby. Will be a good area to get my next job. I put in a competitive quote. Ship a bit my arm off. A few hours later, I was driving to Ilfracombe in Devon, which is where the job was to. Not such an easy area to get out of. Part of the problem I have found is the fact that I'm long-sighted. So I'm absolutely fine with the driving, but sometimes you go, oh, I bid that, and you go, it's going where? Or maybe you have to get them, I don't know, have to get some bins or just make the phone bigger or something like that. So that's it. I'm going to go enjoy the sunshine. Well, I'm not actually. I'm going to go and edit videos and stuff like that. But once that's all done, there's another one coming up on the Commonwealth Games this week. Went to the Commonwealth Games and I've got to go and edit another one. So that's what you do, you know. But still, sunny, life's good. Got a bus haircut and a hat. What could be finer? Take care. Take money.